Activate.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to This Pink Cloud. We are a show that is about multiple pathways to recovery, mental health, all that good stuff. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. Woo. There you go. Speaking of mental health and flatulence, everybody give it up for my good friend Croissant Lemans.
It is kind of offensive for somebody to ever name you something that is not your given name. So the fact that you call me Chad is a big problem to me. I'm just happy to be here. My name is Croissant Lemans, and I am the #1 Tom Thumb and Madonna fan, because there's one thing I like and one thing I like more than that, and this is the one thing I like is Madonna, and the other thing I like more than that is Tom Thumb.
And if they're happening simultaneously,
and if they are happening simultaneously, say you are shopping for ground beef or ground turkey meat inside of a Tom Thumb,
right?
And all of a sudden you hear some Madonna, you probably have died and experienced Nirvana and gone to heaven.
Well, there you go, and there it is. And there it is. Well, Chad was absent for the last 3 episodes. So he had a lot of stuff he had to get out right there.
Well,
so
we have a few things.
Yeah, right. Anyway, but be sure like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We're on Spotify and Apple Music and whatever. But I am excited to have this young man in today, fresh off his TED Talk. Everybody give it up for my good friend, Don Radon. How are you, bud?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I am good. Well, we're going to get into what what you're doing out there in Hubbard, how you're the mayor of Hubbard.
No.
And all that stuff. But I want to introduce your better half. Everybody give it up for Danielle.
Hello.
Yay. And keep the camera on her until she turns red.
Well,
don't.
There it is.
We have good lighting in here, so it's fine.
Literally just happened. Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm excited to have you back on, dude. And congrats on that TED Talk, dude. That's huge.
Thank you.
So why don't we tell the people, kind of what you do out in Hubbard, and what kind of recovery you offer to the folks.
So, a lot of times when I tell this story, it's a little controversial because, I've been in the industry for almost 20 years.
Right.
And all of it traditional treatment models. So, insurance-based. And after, 20 years, I just became kind of disillusioned by the amount of control that insurance companies had over treatment plans, et cetera.
Sure.
And so I broke away from that after having started up places like Origins. Actually, I was part of the startup team with Ben Levinson for Origins.
Name drop. But you're also an addict as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Addict. Yeah, let's hear a little
absolutely.
bit. Why don't you give them the elevator tour of your addiction?
Came up in an abusive home, not shifting blame onto my parents, but
it was all their fault.
It was all their fault.
Right.
And they're dead now.
Right. And now I talk lots of shit about
tons because they can't come and get me.
Right.
And I got a twin brother who's not one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's not an addict.
Fun
or
fact.
Alcoholic. Yeah, it is.
Do y'all still look alike?
We never looked alike. We don't even look like we're related.
Oh, okay.
Not even distant
what are they?
cousins.
It's
still look alike.
Paternal twins.
Fraternal.
Dude, have you ever seen? Dude, there is always we can say this now. The retarded twin, dude. Like the runt of the litter, dude. Have you ever seen him? There's always the one, and he's really handsome, and then something happened in the chromosome mix on the other one.
Yeah. I was the first one.
Right. So you were the alpha twin?
No. Just a better looking, smarter, faster one.
There we go.
So, just to condense it down, I started, smoking weed and drinking beer and at 10 years old and progressed all the way to methamphetamine and every drug in between. I went from, I was a pharmaceutical test pilot that re-entered Earth's atmosphere not too long ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just like anything like pills you would find on the ground. You're like,
yeah, just ran. It looks like a Pez. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Might be a White Cross. Who knows? We'll take it and see.
Horse trank, which is whatever. Little K. It's fine.
And it turned out to be like a birth control.
Hey, I would just take handfuls of pills and just ask after.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean,
I like it.
So yeah, I've been trying to get sober since 1987, and it has not been a straight line for me at all.
Okay,
relapsing for close to 30 years, and yeah, I couldn't find the solution in the places that I was directed to find a solution.
Okay.
Right. So
that being like traditional 12-step recovery.
Right.
Okay.
And meeting stuff and meeting makers make it, and I'd been to treatment twice and looked at my inner child and processed my feelings, but kept getting loaded. Went to the church, kept getting loaded. Started working in treatment.
Right.
Kept getting loaded.
Oh, wow. There's a recurring theme.
Yeah. I get loaded.
Right.
And so I found the solution back in 2006, and that works for me. And it's the original 12-step message and not the one that we hear typically in meetings.
Okay, so let's get into that. So, like, because I always love to, we all had our shit show, but what was the solution? What worked for you?
For me,
yeah.
And again, I believe there's all different types of pathways also.
Right. We celebrate multiple pathways to recovery.
Yeah, yeah. And I acknowledge and endorse all of them.
Right.
Just for me.
But hey, I'm like, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm not like California sober.
Right. Right.
And what it was the 12 steps as it was written in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
And that formula worked for me. It didn't make me perfect. It didn't make me an angel. But it did lead me on a path that gave me like a practical answer. So when life gets lifey, I have directions.
Right.
And it does get lifey still.
Sure. Of course.
And so in those times, I practice the principles to the best of my ability.
Right.
And
and then you just start talking quieter every time.
Yeah. Sometimes start scaling down, and then by the way, Don has narcolepsy as well.
Actually, yeah, you don't even know.
Right.
You don't even know the sleeping disorder issues. You talk about mental health. I got all that stuff.
Right. Well, okay. So, but you first tried the 12 steps, and then so it sounds like the 12 steps eventually worked for you.
Well,
but paint the picture.
Well, okay, so here's the picture is that I didn't realize that there were two different AAs.
Okay, let's hear that.
I thought that AA, the fellowship, was AA, the program.
Right.
And so I'd go to meetings and people would say, when I got to the program. And I couldn't understand why meeting makers weren't making it. I was doing 270 meetings in 90 days, 3 times the recommended dosage, and getting and loaded. I was cleaning, picking up ashtrays and mopping floors and kept getting loaded and going to Denny's. God, I hate Denny's now. Like the meeting after the meeting. And the fellowship stuff, it never had any lasting effect. I made some great friends and had some wonderful, memorable times, but I didn't have the experience that the founders of AA were trying to help us have.
Right. So you basically just had a different crew.
Yeah. Well,
you weren't actually putting the steps into action.
No.
You were just kind of hanging out with
Right. Well, and we would talk
Right.
about the steps, like these lofty ideas and what somebody had told us in a meeting. And it was just all passed down. Like I'd gotten sponsors, but I wasn't walked through the book. We just kind of chatted about some things.
Right. So did you ever try a sponsor? Or?
Oh yeah, no, I had sponsors from day one.
Okay.
And none of them really got me into the actual doing of the steps. There was a lot of talking about it, but it was more heavy on the social aspect. It was, the reliance upon meetings.
Right.
If you and you'll hear it in some meetings, oh, I really needed a meeting today. Mm-hmm. And that's not what the original crew had in mind for us.
Right.
They had one meeting a week. That was it.
Yeah.
They didn't have text messaging. They didn't have, email me your nightly reviews. It was, there was, I think the last time I looked, there was over 1,800 different 12-step meetings Dallas, in Dallas.
Yeah, they have like I say, a meeting for every A out there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I was just not, and maybe the message was there that
Well, so maybe would you say it was maybe like kind of a disconnect on your part, like that you didn't necessarily understand, or maybe even want to get sober? Because I always say that you actually, the person has to want to be sober. And I can't. That's one thing I can't do is make you want to be sober.
Yeah, I would say that's a moving target,
right?
Because we always, when our ass is on fire, I always want to put that out,
right?
And then when my ass is not on fire and it doesn't hurt and I can sit down again, I rest on my laurels,
Right.
I don't dig in as
you rest on your tucks.
They're not coming yet.
Yeah, right. The hemorrhoidal, yes.
I'm not there
tucks,
yet.
Right.
I'm not there yet.
I don't know. That's where my mind automatically goes.
Dude,
you start talking about your
so weird
ass on fire, and I automatically start thinking of hemorrhoids.
Right to tucks. I've never had them, so I wouldn't know. I've not had the ass clap.
Rhode Island on my gooch.
That was funny. That's another story. But so obviously it was a struggle for you, to get clean, and it didn't happen ABC for
right.
you.
No. It all ended up being for a good reason, because at Recovered and Free, we deal with typically the people who can't afford the Origins bracket. They, we're
why don't you tell them what you have? Well, so first off, how long was your journey before? So it was 2007.
2006, so 1987.
So almost 20 years then.
Yeah.
So of struggling in and out.
And
would you have like windows?
Oh yeah.
Like what was the longest window?
5 years, 11 months, and 6 days, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was real close to 6 years.
Right.
And just thought, fuck it, if this is as good as life gets, I might as well get loaded. And I was married to a runaway model. I was an up-and-comer in the industry, the IT industry, and from the outside looking in, my life looked great.
Right.
But internally,
let's get loaded.
I still had no solution.
Okay.
Right? I was sober. I was abstinent. Mm-hmm. And, if you're an addict or an alcoholic, your life will get better externally if you stop drinking and using drugs.
Yeah,
right? Like you'll wash your ass and people don't think you smell bad.
Right. Well, no, and I think that's important. That's an important thing that you point out, because honestly, quitting substance, period, will benefit your life.
Yes.
By the way, I think we can all attest to that. But if you're not doing the actual spiritual work and having a spiritual awakening, then it's like you're just phoning it in. So to speak.
Yeah, and I liken it to being in prison. Mm-hmm. Now, I've never really spent more than 72 hours in any jail, but they were still 72 hours too long. So if I'm going to be in prison for a lifetime, and I have two options, a sober prison or a loaded prison, I'm taking the fucking loaded prison every time.
Right.
Like I would rather, if I'm not going to be free, I would rather be high and not free.
Right. Gotcha. Sure.
And so that's what the 12 steps did for me is that it allowed me to find freedom, and more importantly, it's launched me, just like the book says, that this is only a beginning. And some people, kind of live and die by the first 164. It's, to me, if you're going to do that, then you have to really look at page 164, which means that we only know a little, and God will constantly disclose more to you and to us, right? So, that means that this is just a jumping off point. It's not the end all be all.
Right. It's not like, you're done, you're cured.
Right. Right.
And don't do anything to, keep that, facilitate your recovery.
Right. So, I've reached different places now, and places that the 12 steps of AA couldn't get me. I have a therapist now, which, again, I would have never bridged that gap without the 12 steps.
Right. Well, and I think, honestly, that the 12 steps are designed for you to deal with your shit, for you to actually, tell someone that, that's not your therapist. But I think, now that therapy's, so commonplace, I definitely think any kind of therapy is fantastic coupled with, your recovery, because a lot of people, most people, have some type of trauma or PTSD or anything like that. Do you have anything to add, Chad?
Yeah, it's designed for you to be able to, start a new life. It's a design for living. It's not just meant for, and it doesn't make sense until it makes sense.
Right.
That's the thing about it, right? Like, you can say, I feel like in there's these windows, like you were talking about, where you have, your ass is on fire or whatever, but there's also these windows where if that one person might be able to say that one thing that you've already heard 1,000 times before, it might make sense that time. And you'll be like, well, fucking, why didn't anybody else tell me to get sober?
Right.
And everybody's like, shut up, you idiot. We told you that your entire life. Right. But, and that's where, that's where the book also comes in, because that's where we get to work with other people and hopefully be that person that might say that one thing that they've heard 1,000 times that all of a sudden just makes sense.
Well, and also sometimes people need to hear things framed a different way, and a delivery from Chad is different than a delivery from Danielle.
Of course, I think the delivery from croissant might even be the best delivery. Who doesn't like a good croissant
with butter?
Love it. But so that kind of puts a light into that it's not just one set way you do this, then you're sober, and I think that's an important thing to point out, is that it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a one shot.
Right. And speaking of ongoing processes, so you have your Recovered and Free organization out in Hubbard, correct?
Yeah.
So, let's talk about that and what you offer different from places like Origin.
So, walking away from traditional treatment models, the peer-driven program works, and you guys can check us out. Google Recovered and Free, and we've got 4.9 star rating, and it's because of the connection that we can create from one addict to another.
Okay.
And of course, AA knew that already.
Right.
But I won't hire anybody that has a licensure. They have to have gone through the program. So they've, been on both sides of the same coin, right? It's suffering the addiction and going through the
recovery process.
Yeah. And so, I think that's the key differentiator. We're super affordable. I also get the guys involved in community engagement, which we'll talk about in the TEDx talk.
Yeah. Okay.
How is Ted, by the way?
Intimidating.
Yeah.
Like super intimidating.
Yeah, let's get to that. But I also wanted to talk more about so if people want to go, actually y'all are a cash-based system, right?
Correct.
So let's talk about that, and then talk about what they can expect as a client coming to, Recovered and Free.
Yeah. I mean, we don't take insurance because, as I said, I don't want to be under the thumb of the insurance companies or, under state legislature.
Right.
And so what you can expect is we're very transparent about our pricing also.
Right.
It is very affordable. It's under $16,000 for 90 days, and a lot of places you can't stay
that's
2 or
cheap.
3 weeks.
I mean, I paid $14K for 30.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Right. And that longevity in the process, of repetition being the mother of all learning.
Mm-hmm.
Chad, I said, repetition is the mother of all learning. Repetition is the mother of all learning.
I'm not sure who you think you are speaking to.
Oh, sorry.
My name is not Chad. It never has been Chad. As a matter of fact, Chad is gone. He left his studio a long time ago when he started listening to more Madonna and shopping at Tom Sam.
He left with his leg.
Chad's been looking for his leg since 2008, and he has not found it yet.
It's on the run.
That's how Chad goes to that character to process his trauma.
Yeah, that's his trauma response.
Well, hello, little Chad. How are you feeling today? That's just what I do when I'm at home.
You have those Buffalo Bill moments in the mirror. I'd fuck me. Right. That's hilarious, man. Talking to you, I'm sorry you lost your leg.
I'm so sorry, little Chad, that your leg is not there anymore.
That would be hilarious. Oh, that's good stuff. Anyway, so what's the facility like? I know you've got like a compound out there, right?
Yeah, it's 12,000 square feet. So we took over a women's facility that vacated, and 12,000 square feet. I've got capacity for like up to 50.
Oh wow!
I won't get there.
Yeah,
because we like to keep things really personal,
lean and mean.
Yeah, exactly. And because people fall through the cracks when they're just another number,
right?
When they're in the mill.
Yeah, I heard a story the other day from somebody who was trying to get into treatment, and they had just been at a place where the census was over 100.
Jesus.
And I was like, what the fuck are you even doing there?
Right.
Well, how can you manage 100 people?
Right.
100 drug addicts and alcoholics.
Yeah, right.
Like, good fucking luck, dude.
Right.
Right. I mean, 3 is a handful.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we keep things nice and lean. We average about 12 men at any given time, and it's low key. It's a low key place. We do get involved with the community, do some community work out there, and again, that's going to be part of my TEDx talk.
Right.
But it's just about learning to live the 12 steps and not conceptualize it. We don't just do lectures about things. Right from the jump, you're going to be diving into the work.
Right. Okay.
And yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, and it's an affordable alternative if you don't have insurance, and they can go to what, Recovered or RAF?
Recoveredandfree.com.
Okay.
Or recoveredaf.com.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which can also be a double entendre.
It definitely is. That's how it came into being.
Right. I love it. Okay. Well, we'll talk to you about the TED Talk a little bit more. But right now we will throw to our sponsor, which is Lil Sheila.
Shout out Lil Sheila.
And she has a book, and it is called 2 Calls.
She be writing this shit.
That's right. And here's that commercial.
Imagine getting that phone call as a parent that your son has been hit by a car and is being life-flighted.
2 hours before we got the call, Chad had called me to tell me it was the best day of his life. And then I get another call, and a stranger had found him, and they were care flighting him to a trauma unit, and that he would start praying for our family that we needed to hurry.
You know, when you wake up on the operating table and they're like, we're going to cut off both your legs. And then I wake up and then one's gone, the other one's in an external rod system. It's just not good. The real kicker is that I've had like all of these scars all over my arms, and that's all from complications resulting from drug abuse.
I never thought about giving up on him. Never. This is my son, and I know he's going to be okay. You cannot just have help for the addict. You have to seek out professional help. The whole family has been affected.
And I just want to make that very clear to anybody who's out there listening, that if I can do this thing as much as I've been through, man, there's a lot of wiggle room for people before they get to that point where they can do it too.
All right, and that book is out now. It is called, if you go to twocalls.org, that will take you to the website. You can purchase the book, and Chad and his mama, Lil Sheila, do speaking and stuff. And if you're lucky, maybe Croissant will show up.
So Croissant is not currently advertised on the platform, on the website. But yeah, we do. We go around and do talks for generally family-based stuff,
right?
Because it's a family-geared thing. So yeah, if you guys are looking to hear from us, or maybe have some Madonna or Tom Sam be played at your talk about recovery stuff, let us know.
And speaking of music, we actually have some new stuff out, and here it is.
Focus yourself.
All right, and those are actually streaming on all major platforms, on the Spotify, on the Apple Music, all that good stuff. If you go to Spotify, if you're a Spotify person, obviously, please follow the podcast. But then also you can look us up. We both actually have our playlist now. Mine is This Is Kelly Reverb, and his is
This is Chad Lemans.
Right.
That is what mine is.
I think you should make one Croissant's favorites, and just all Madonna.
That's not the worst idea.
I know.
That's not the worst
But just
idea
all
I've ever
Madonna
had.
songs.
Yeah. I will credit myself with more sound effects and better ideas than that.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, be sure, like, subscribe, all that mumbo jumbo, and comment, actually, because it does make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do, I think. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think.
Anyway, so, dude, yeah. But you just did, like, a TED Talk. Mm-hmm. What was it like? I mean, how long ago?
End of October.
End of October. Mm-hmm. So and then it takes a while, and then it airs.
Yes.
Right. So it just recently aired.
Jan 3rd.
Yep.
Well,
January.
so this is where we're going to get you involved, because I heard you had a lot to do with actually encouraging this young man to be on the TED Talk.
That's true.
Okay. Well,
can you hear me? Am I close enough?
We can hear you.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually,
Well, first off, are you in recovery
I
as
am.
well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I'm in recovery.
Well, let's hear the elevator pitch.
I'll try
on your
to do
story.
it without making my face turn too red. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm in recovery. My story started when I was about 16.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the OxyContin kind of flood out on the East Coast.
Okay.
It was huge.
I think it was a flood everywhere.
It was it was extra
Especially
prevalent
that,
where
yeah.
I grew up.
Right.
I mean, so many people I grew up with ended up dying from it, but
wow.
Eventually turned into an IV heroin addiction
when
I was 18.
Does, right.
And that's kind of where my rehab journey started. So 8 inpatient treatments. I think most important part of my story is that I became pregnant, but I couldn't stop using.
Oh, wow.
And that's a super under talked about, I think, area of recovery because it's so
well, it's real.
Shame based, right? Because, you know, as a mother, you're supposed to be able to protect your kids and do anything. And, you know, that love is the one love I think that is supposed to be able to make you stop. And I couldn't. So, you know, I love to work with others, and I find that God always brings women into my life who are in the same position, because there's something to be said about being able to look at a woman in the eyes and say, I understand, you know, I get why you couldn't stop. So my children are miracles. And that's the worst and also my favorite part of my story, because I think it grabs a very specific genre of addict
for sure.
that we're underserved. There are rehabs that won't even take us. I actually, the last treatment center I went to in 2016, which is my sobriety year, was the last one on a list of like 9. I was 7 months pregnant. Nobody would take me. And I actually had to be entered in like on the DL. Like I had connections for the person who was running the facility, and they just let me come in.
Can you wear like a muumuu today, like to cover?
They don't want to touch it with the 10-foot pole because it's just such a liability.
Exactly.
Such a liability. So I detoxed cold turkey pregnant at this facility that thank God let me in, and that was the starting off point to my recovery that I have today, which is incredible. I mean, it's incredible. I found freedom the same way that Don did. I practice the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous in my daily life, and so that's
we're gonna have to have her on for her separate episode because I think that's super compelling. What you were talking about. And
it's almost like her volume levels were perfect when she was speaking the entire time. That's crazy. How's that work?
Crazy.
But no, I definitely want to have you back on and just get into that, because I mean, I think what you said is it's, you know, not really ever addressed. I mean, what do you do when somebody is pregnant and they can't stop?
And I was single, right? So I was single, and then where do the kids go? You know, with the second time around, I had a 9-month-old, and thank God I had family, but that's a reason why we don't ask for help, because where are the kids going to go? How does life go on for moms? When we're afraid to ask for help because CPS will get involved the second you ask for help, which is what happened with me. That's a whole another story for another day. But there's so many reasons for us not to ask for help, and we're pretty much put in a position to fail. If you're pregnant and you're an addict, it's a very scary place to be.
You shouldn't have gotten pregnant, because you shouldn't have done something irresponsible while you were on drugs.
Exactly.
Breaking into that house.
But that's crazy, and I definitely want to get you back on to talk more about that in depth. But so tell us how you got this young lad to actually wear a suit and clean up and do a rehearsed, not off the cuff presentation. So.
Well, I think I love the story of how the TED Talk even came to be, which is it was birthed out of the union between Hubbard and Recovered and Free. You know, when Don opened Recovered and Free in Hubbard, nobody wanted him there because it's scary. Like drug addicts in a small rural town, especially men, they backed up to a daycare. You know, it was just a lot of no's. This is not for us. We don't want this in our area. And the way Don built his program is so different from all of the rehabs I went to. I realized how isolating like HIPAA laws are, right? Like, it's like you go into a treatment center, and if you don't sign the right papers, your parents can't even know that you're there. You know, HIPAA compliances, when you go into treatment, it isolates you, right? And now, obviously, I know that it's there for protection, medical records, all of that.
And privacy.
And privacy. So I'm not knocking it, but what it does not encourage is connection to the outside world, which when practicing the 12 steps, especially, the main goal of those steps is to establish connection with higher power, connection with others. So in its essence, HIPAA laws do not allow that. And Don's program is set up in a way where that veil is lifted and we do not have to comply to HIPAA regulations,
Right.
which means we are in a very unique position where we get to let our men go out into the community and be a part of, which is
Right.
huge. I mean, there's not other places really that do that.
And we take pictures of them and publicly humiliate them on the internet. And go, why can't you get clean, you stupid fuck? Of course you don't do that.
No, but we do take pictures and we post them up on our Facebook.
Our Facebook is one of our most active. We have over 4,500 followers on our Facebook, and it's
Right.
one of our most active marketing avenues because everybody gets to see the men recover.
Oh,
And
that's
you don't
cool.
really get to see that in any other scenario. So all of that said, the birth of the TED Talk really came one day when I was thinking about the union between Hubbard, what has happened between our center and the men, the evolution of that relationship and how divine it was. And I got the idea to post on a local moms page, Colleyville Moms, shout out,
Okay.
Colleyville Moms. But I posted this story and I asked if anybody else thought that the story of Hubbard and recovered and free, if anyone else thought it was as divine as I did.
Yeah, and compelling.
Or
I
am
mean,
I
it's-
just being, biased because it's our baby, right?
Right, yeah.
And the response was overwhelming. So we had over 125 people. Oh, here's a news station tagging. Everything fell through except this one inbound message from a woman named Lori. And she said, this sounds like a TED Talk.
Right.
And she just so happened to be a part of TEDx South Lake. And she said, submissions are coming in right now for our talk in October, which is innovating the human experience, which couldn't be more perfect.
Right.
And she said, I think you guys should apply.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole thing started from.
Oh, wow.
And so I told him, I'm like, we have to apply, the testimony of what's happening in Hubbard, Texas, the most random place ever, needs to be told large scale. So that's where it started from.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, and I know that there are two different kinds of TED Talks as well, because we've had 10 Cano on, and she did one, but it was only like a 5-minute version. And then I know then you have the full hour. And then, and I mean, there's different TED Talks for every town, right?
Yep.
Or
Right.
how does it work?
So there's TED, which is the large stage.
Right.
And you're going to have your Bill Gateses, et cetera, on that platform. But then they license out to different areas of the world. I think I can't remember the number, but it's in the thousands of licenses called TEDx.
Right. And then so it's like
community.
TEDx South Lake, TEDx McKinney, TEDx.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so they have to follow the, TED formula for things to get approved by TED, because the local area curates their speakers, and then they produce, they do the work. It was 6 months of preparation. Lori Preston was my speaker coach.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you actually have a speaker coach that's working with you on your presentation. Now, do you have is it something that you have to handwrite yourself and kind of go, and then she'll go through
it was very much like that.
Yeah.
The creative process was so far outside of how I operate.
Right.
I'm an outlaw.
Well, you're just an off the cuff guy.
Yeah.
And you've done it before, and you command. You have a commanding presence when you speak to people.
Yeah, especially when you talk into your mic.
Sir, yes, sir. Is that better? Am I too far away from it? Is that the problem?
Yeah,
Oh, well,
maybe.
you just do this and then you just say,
Well, man, it's
start-
dramatic. It's dramatic effect. I don't know what it is.
He goes from booming to just real mellow.
Well, that's what it's like being bipolar. I'm not cycling that fast,
Right.
Because I have it, but yeah, that's kind of actually what it's like.
Right.
Yeah, 0 to 100 and back to 0.
I like it.
There you go.
I like it. So the process.
Yeah. They assign you a coach, and Lori was fantastic. I mean, I wrestle with self-image stuff, and the fact that there were cameras involved, and I've been watching TED Talks for almost 20 years,
right,
and never once thought of myself being on the red dot, never once. And the fact that we were here at this place, I mean, I was ready to cash it in,
right,
I don't know, 3 or 4 different times before, and then after the filming and the production, I was going to cash out again and say, just pull it. Don't pull the production. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, after all the work. Yeah. But Lori was great and encouraging me. Of course, the loving support of my wife. She is a spider monkey,
I don't know what that means, but I think I like it.
Not that.
I mean,
he means I'm
it is my
persistent.
circus and it is my monkey. So they I mean, you have to, obviously they have their theme, and then you have the writing process, and I understand writer's block now.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me 2 or 3 weeks just to get started.
Right.
And then you create the framework, and then you fill that in, and then it's about,
Yeah. So, okay. So how many pages would you say you had to write, and then shrink it down to how many did you use?
Well, that's the funny thing. I think I ended up with like 6 or 7 pages.
Not even. It was
Right.
only 3 typed pages.
And your TED Talk was an hour, right?
It was
No. It was only 15 minutes. So the TEDx have to stay within 15 to 18 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
They always tell you 15.
Yeah.
Which if anybody knows me, if anybody that knows me is watching this, they know I can't do anything in 15 minutes. I can't leave my house in 15 minutes.
Right.
But they also, built in that 3 little minutes. But it has to be under that time frame to qualify to make the grade.
Gotcha.
And so that was intimidating. The fact that I had to memorize this speech was, I mean, it was breaking me, literally.
Oh yeah, you can't, because they don't let you even have cue cards, do they?
No.
And there's no teleprompter.
No, there's not.
Right.
There's not. And I also have this memory problem.
Yeah.
Like, short-term memory loss is a real thing for me.
Sure.
And so it was. I mean, it almost broke me several times. We were doing dry runs 2 or 3 days before production, and I'm saying line.
Oh yeah.
Line.
Yeah,
Right.
he didn't have it. So one thing that he ended up doing is he put so much pressure on himself after watching so many videos that he totally lost himself at one point in the middle of the process trying to mimic what he's thinking is going to be best. And so he ended up using like so many slides. He made a slideshow, which was not helpful. He was having a hard time memorizing it, and it became very emotional. And he's not lying. The morning before the talk, he's standing up, and it's 7:00 in the morning, and we're trying to practice, and like he cannot remember what is on which slide.
Right.
And again, it was so emotional.
Yeah.
And we actually, like, I got this intuition that morning because he was so upset, and I was like, this is not how this should be.
Right.
This experience should not be like this. And I said, this is going to sound crazy, but we're ditching all of the slides. So there were 15 slides, and we ditched all of them. And I said, try it now. And so he just stood up and told this story.
Right.
And it flowed perfectly. So
nice.
the night before,
we
he
whacked like
ditched
half of them.
all of the slides except for 3 at the end, which were very impactful.
Right.
And then the day of the show, they actually ended up having some slight technical difficulties, and nobody's slides were working.
Oh, great.
So it was
it
was crazy.
But so I always say this, and this was one of my, big things of like, I would have to get, lubricated in order to speak in public, because that used to be a huge fear of mine. Just doing something like this used to be just like out of the question, and it's just like that's, you know, the things you have to do in sobriety is like lean in to that discomfort. Hey, this is not easy, but I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to have that experience afterwards, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, public speaking is my forte, but it's not. I mean, I could speak in front of 100,000 people. No problem.
Right.
It was a structure.
It was the structure that just it was handcuffing me. I was zip tied, you know, and thrown into, you know, the sharks.
Right.
And so what ended up happening, I walk out on stage with the MC introducing me. I walk out on stage and I start to do my little pitch, and then I get stuck.
Did he get your name right?
She did.
She did?
She did.
Okay.
Yeah. She
That's
did.
good.
And
Don Radon, everybody.
Radonsky.
Right.
And I shit the bed.
Yeah.
Like, I got 10 sentences in and I couldn't remember my next line. And I'm standing there and I'm trying to think of what is next. And I'm about to break down, and I clearly hear God say, Don, they came here for fucking words. Open your mouth.
Right.
But Danielle started to yell from the audience, start over, because we're still having AV problems. So she's like, start over. And that caught everybody else in the audience. Everybody else was like, yeah, start over. Right. And so that really loosened me up, because then I get back on stage and I'm kind of jovial about it. And I didn't follow the script at all. Right. And Danielle,
that and a handful of CBD gummies,
and they make those,
right?
And so it just flowed, and I didn't even look at the clock to find out if I was on time, and I stuck the landing, I guess, because I wrapped it up and I got 2 standing ovations, and which was overwhelming to me. Again, because I really was so, like, I don't know.
Well, I think the people, can see that you're authentic. And that's one thing about you that, makes you a likable guy, is your authenticity, Well,
I appreciate that. Yeah. Right. I mean, I think that is actually why people connected, was because, they could see the struggle. They could see, the genuine message of RAF or our story, because, of course, TEDx won't allow you to, promote your business. It's about the idea. It's not about the business.
Sure.
And so, it was.
Well, by the way, so what's the name of the episode if people want to look it up?
Breaking the Stigma of Addiction Through Community Engagement.
Okay.
And please watch the entire thing, comment, like, share, all of those wonderful things. You can subscribe, I guess, if you want to. But
right. But it's more important that you subscribe to this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then go
far more important.
Yeah, right. Because Ted's got enough going on. Ted's crushing it.
He absolutely is crushing it.
Right.
So it was such a sigh of relief afterwards.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's kind of like, why people climb Mount Everest or something like that, It's like you can have that and you go, oh, yeah, I did a TED Talk.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very much very rewarding at the end. The struggle was real all the way up to walking off the stage. And then, seeing the response. I didn't expect any of it.
Right.
In fact, I thought they were going to say, "Nah, we got to cut this down."
Yeah, dude.
You see the big.
By the way, your episode not going to make it.
Not going to make it. And what's funny? It's not funny, but out of the over 260 applicants, I got selected to be one of 16.
Oh wow!
And whatever was happening with one of the folks, out of the 16, one of them got pulled.
Okay.
Their video didn't get released. I don't know what line they crossed or blurred, whatever. Not.
But they went outside the parameters and got yanked.
Mm-hmm. And Ted says, "Nope, this is not."
Fucking Ted, dude.
That's right.
Ted's in charge of the TED universe.
Right. Ted, exactly. Well, cool, dude. Well, I'm glad you got through that. And then, I'm excited that, you still got things going. I mean, how long have you been in business now?
7 years.
7 years.
We're going to
that's
be 8 years in May.
That's some longevity, dude, which doesn't always happen, especially with startup businesses,
Oh, no. And COVID and Snowmageddon and the discrimination on the very front end. They had a petition signing being passed around town to shut us down before we even opened.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were a men's facility.
Right.
We took over a woman's facility.
Right. And
they were fine with that.
They were
but
okay
as
with
soon as
women
we changed the gender,
right?
It was like all drug addict men and alcoholic men are pedophiles.
Right.
It's like, what? What?
No. To do that, you have to have 3 commas in your bank account. That's the theory of your heading with.
Yes.
Once you hit the 3rd comma, it's immediately butt stuff with minors.
Right.
You know what I mean? That seems to be the issue
one
playing
comma.
out. No, that's fine.
Okay.
It's the 3rd comma.
Right. Once you have your own island, dude.
Like what else do you need?
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Whose approval do you need? I own a country.
Yeah, that theory will stand until proven wrong.
Right.
You know
Exactly.
what
I can't wait. I wonder if that list is going to get released.
That'd be tight.
Supposedly, isn't it?
I don't know, man.
Now that the Donald's in? I don't know. That's what I've heard.
The Donald.
That is what I've heard. Anyway.
I'm Don.
Right. Not that Donald.
No,
Yeah.
it's Don.
But anyway, dude, I'm glad you got through it, dude. And I mean, that's a big accomplishment and, way to challenge yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were in this together. I don't want to diminish Danielle's role in this.
Right.
Because, without her and Lori together, pushing me along because I just didn't have the confidence. It's funny. Like I can do this show no problem.
Yeah.
Because we're not following anything other than you telling me to shut up when it's over, right? Like it's wheels off. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Danielle. I couldn't have done it without her.
She made you do your homework.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
There was
She's
one moment where
there was
I was over
moments.
him clapping, saying,
Right.
"This isn't about how you feel right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Fuck your feelings.
Get over your fucking self.
Quit being a bitch.
Doesn't matter how you feel. There's a fucking deadline."
Yeah, but I sound just like a new guy in sobriety. Right?
Yeah.
But I don't like the feeling.
I'm uncomfortable. Well, anyway, dude, I'm glad you made it through, and I always find that interesting and compelling, the whole process, and it's a process to do that. And I'm glad you made it, and then it actually aired.
It did.
Yeah,
It did.
So that's a big thing.
And yeah.
And you still got a viable business going on that offers a fantastic alternative for those that are financially, strapped. Maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, some one of the guys that I had he was 27 years old, and we were his 50th treatment episode.
Nice.
His 50th.
Yeah.
Right. And the family just threw all kinds of money at this kid. And
Yeah.
not everyone has that kind of resources.
Yeah,
right. Like
sure.
We're usually the last stop. They've done the origins. They've done the passages. They've done the all the
Right.
others, and they get to us as like a final shot type
Right.
thing. And
Well,
it works.
and I'm glad that you're there
Yeah.
and doing what you do. So thanks for coming on, dude.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
you. And then how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah, you're good now.
made
Now she's warmed up. Now she's good.
Well, I'm
But-
in sales, so I can, when I have to turn it on, I can, but
Oh, nice. Okay.
don't like it up until.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Just the thought of doing it
Exactly.
bothers you. I got it. Well, we'll definitely have you back on because I totally want to dive into the, your backstory and all that good stuff. And then a croissant, always a pleasure. I'm glad you could make it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're glad we're glad we could have you on the show.
Thanks,
right.
guys. I like being here sometimes when we do shows and stuff. I like doing shows and stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes when I like being here.
Right.
And it was nice to be here with you guys. I like being here with you
Hold
guys
on.
doing shows and stuff.
Chad,
I don't know what this
Hold on,
was.
is this
I don't know
Billy
where it
Bob
just came
now?
from.
Did you?
It was good.
Hey,
Yeah,
Chad.
whatever it was, it worked.
Chet, I just want to ask you one question. I like movies.
I like movies.
I like movies.
Inside joke.
Yeah, if
But,
anybody hadn't seen that podcast yet,
yeah,
that's
the
our
Run
buddy Brandon.
Run So Bar podcast.
Run So-
Dude, it's the most awkward line of questioning
Hey
ever.
Kelly, so what's your DJ career like? Hey Chad, by the way, what do you think happens when we die?
Right.
It's like, dude, what the fuck
Yeah,
are you
I know. I
asking?
got all these softball questions, and then Chad, what's going to happen? What do you think is going to be the end of civilization? It's like, all right.
Oh man,
That's a good one. But yeah, check that out. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff. Follow us even for the music if you dig it, and if you don't, then I can't help you. But
Then you
appreciate
have
y'all.
shitty taste.
Appreciate y'all. Yeah, exactly. Then you
Don't
suck.
like it, then fuck you.
Then you suck. Dude. Oh, so next week, next week, dude, we have my good friend Sal Gatto.
All right.
Disco Arigato, Mr. Salgato. He is a beloved member in the dance community and also a promoter, but also a chef and in long-term recovery.
Hell
So
yeah.
that'll be a good one.
All right.
And remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.